missed here a question mark. Yeah, so coming from 7 to 3 GDP growth. Yeah, Turkey comes from 11 to 7 to 5 the last 5 years. So again, don't get nervous. But I think this is again, I don't see that there will be have a dramatic effect on our European real estate business. Just showing the broader picture for sure. There were for sure some impacts. Well, second risk, let's say, who is running for president. I'm not really sure this is a risk. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. I think this would be the first time that a real estate guru maybe become president. I don't know, but I think the risk maybe is this woman. Don't get me wrong. Now she's smiling, and but most of the time she look a little bit rational. Let's say this, and we all know what's going on. I think it's Thursday, 7 p.m. UK time, when she make the big announcement. I failed 4 times. Maybe 5th times, I'm not sure, but from a real estate perspective, let it as it is, please, lady. From an analytical standpoint, please start increasing the interest rate. Maybe we can touch this point later on. Again, rational speaking, let's go increasing the interest rate. By the way, this is Ms. Yellen and not Mr. Draghi, because Mr. Draghi, for sure, he has another view of QE easing and all QE activities. So, but again, I don't think this will be a dramatic risk for our industry. Also not this, Mr. Putin and Mr. Tsipras. I have, meanwhile, absolutely no idea what's going on there, to be honest. And the risk, let's say just an example, our Finnish colleagues, we had an event last week, minus 40% decline in turn-up activities linked to the sanction from Russia to Finland. This is again GDP, minus 5%, minus 2.5%, and the export minus 25%. These are the short-term effects on a country beside Russia. But nevertheless, and the fourth risk, again, it's a topic we can fill all our daytime with the discussions on that. The refugee wave, I call it like this. From a channel of expectations, I don't see any dramatic change by the end of this year. I mentioned it several times, beside the sentiments. So what is really clear that some sentiments going a little bit more, let's say, pessimistic. So, well, the risk you saw, well, you have a look what's going on with the real estate market. I don't see it. Again, I don't speak too positive, representing our industry, but I think I don't see any dramatic things. By that, I think later on in the discussion we see more or less some positive signs on that. And again, don't get me wrong, all these growth figures you see, the worst thing we see in Europe, in continental Europe, I have to say this, in the next 3 years is France. Just by structural activities, we see this as a country, not as an investment spot. I think, again, we can touch this later on. What's going on within your and my industry? Here we are hosts today and a big famous investor. Just some number crunching. 2007, the last booming year, we have around 225 billion, 6 billion transaction volume, all in office, retail, industrial, hotel, resi. 2013 declined a little bit, and now we will get the new, let's say maybe a record, I'm not sure, but I think it will be number 3 starting by 2001, so it will be not overtaken the 2007 total. But what's interesting for you and me is the enormous amount of money. And this is for me coming from an analytical standpoint, part of the advisory team within Catella. This is the main risk. It's a pretty shiny risk for us, don't get me wrong. So this is the explanation why I would bet Ms. Yellen to start increasing a little bit interest rate. It's borrowed money for all of us. Don't get me wrong. But, it's good for us as an industry, but from a structural effect, I have my doubts, meanwhile, that this will come up to whatever means positive end. And again, I have no idea what Mr. Draghi will do the next 2 years by printing money, printing money, printing money. So again, this is the main risk I see. Sounds, again, strange from within our industry. It's the same old story when you look at all these global investment activities. For sure, there it's UK, it's London for sure, around 40 billion, followed by Germany and France. And again, I have French relatives, so I have to say this quite clear. Let's say the minus 70%. This is what I mentioned before. Paris, especially, Ile-de-France, IDF, was heavily hit by the activities in this year. highly correlated with the GDP activities, maybe with Mr. Hollande, okay. But I think this is again where we should have a closer look maybe later on. France is in really big trouble from investors' approach. On the other hand, I think the rest is quite normal, let's say this. Netherlands coming up, also driven by a lot of residential activities going on. Italy, well, Finland, Russia, same old story. If you split it up between UK, Germany, France, and the Nordics, I think it's nearly the same situation. It starts booming in 11, 12, 13, and 14, and again in most of the countries, most of the regions, except for France. We will see this year, end of this year, I think a booming market and a new record. Where does they all come from? It's strong rental growth in Madrid and London. So this is again where, honestly speaking, from our forecasts in 2012. In 12, London was, we don't predict as London is so good. So again, positive signs for the rest of Europe. It's London City, it's the Western for sure, and again, Madrid Prime. But these are again just short-term views on that. The rest it's around, let's say, 1.2% rental growth expectation compared to the last cycle. This is nothing. And so again, coming from a more pessimistic view on that, we heard at the INGREF conference spring this year, we heard the big BlackRock Super Chief Investment Officer, and he was asked by, what is your investment prediction for this year? He said, everything out of office. Interesting. Capital flows, again, it's where it all come from. It's US, Canada, France, Canada. So this is again interesting, maybe an interesting column for you. The cross-border activities from the French pension funds, and all well-known investors who start diversify more than they ever make. And this is again a sign that they bring out the money out of the country. Let's say this a little bit provocative. Germany, Qatar, and all these interesting things. Maybe the last slide where you see the capital flows the last 12 months. I quoted here RCA. They create a lot of pretty shiny maps on that. I think it's a broad picture. We see there are some things going on in Russia, but also in northern part of Italy. And it's the same, or let's say the story, former times we call it the blue banana phenomenon. From a German perspective, it's Berlin, heavily linked to the Resi, for sure, but also in the Nordics, I think in Oslo and also in Stockholm and in Finland. So again, just, I wouldn't say not interesting or super astonishing topic. To sum up, expectations, we generally, except for France, should benefit from the economic forecast average Europe. I have to mention this, beside all the negative sentiments, beside coming from 11 to 5 and 3 GDP growth. Again, it's a positive sign from economic basement. Interest in office and retail investments will remain high for sure. Logistics or industrial, as we said, Germany, it's maybe an alternative. To be honest, when I ask Thomas Beyerle, you say risk is for me always when investors go try to invest in a sub-market where they have no experience. And this you can really feel and touch in these days when you have to read a lot of announcements. We think about logistics. Again, all pretty professional people, but I have my doubts in some cases. Limited potential for prime yields. Well, speaking frankly and open, we see 3 something as the new 4 or the new 5 years ago. So again, meanwhile, when you hear this statement also from Catella for sure, investors accept higher risk, which means low yields. And this is again, I think this is the big sword of Damocles for our industry, explaining it in 5 or 10 years time. What are you doing in these days when you're looking for something called 3.8 in London? Asian announcement, and this was the reason why I started with the front page of The Economist. I don't see that this will change dramatically. It's more opposite driven. I see that we will see much more than ever activities coming from Asia / China, mainland China, into Europe. From a continental Europe perspective, quite clear it will be for sure London. We see some things going on in Germany and Poland. They don't make investments in France in these days. We accompanied 2 ones in Madrid or Spain. So again, I think the Asian money, which is 80% mainland China money via Hong Kong, I think this will be the big push factor for the next 6 months also for our industry. And again, occupier demand should continue to improve. On the one hand, The main risk I mentioned is when investors set up try invest in submarkets, they have no experience. And the second thing, honestly speaking, and frank and open, I have my doubts if the rental increase scenario and the rental forecasts will come to a positive end for the next 12 months. This is the risk for our industry in total. Thanks a lot.